Hey everybody, it's Tuesday, March 21st. This week we're going to be talking about the weekend I spent in Austin, the jokes that I've been working on, whether they hit or not, my plans to move to Austin, some stuff in the news, and of course, astrology. So get ready and enjoy the show. All right, so this weekend I went down to Austin, Texas. I live in Wichita Falls, so that was about a 5-hour drive for me. What happened was my best friend is the general manager for Joe Rogan's Comedy Mothership, the new club that opened up down there on 6th Street. Last weekend was the grand opening. This weekend, they kind of had some things figured out, and I didn't want to go down there the first weekend with my friend because he's going to be stressing out, and he's just going to be, he's going to be too busy to hang out with me. And I was thinking the second weekend would be a little bit better for him. My wife, who worked at the Comedy Store for 20 years in one capacity or the other, knows how important stand-up comedy is to me, and she kind of pushed me to go down there. The general manager was the general manager for the Comedy Store. The other manager was a manager at the Comedy Store. There's a consultant down there who was a manager at the Comedy Store. The booker was the booker for the Comedy Store. The bar manager was a bartender at the Comedy Store. And at least two of the servers were servers at the Comedy Store. And then a lot of the comedians were regulars or door guys at the Comedy Store. So it's a family to me. And my wife knows how important these people are to me, and she was like, you need to go. And initially, I'll be honest, I was kind of thinking, I'm not going to drive 5 hours to hang out with people because I'm a little petty, I guess. If I'm going somewhere, I want to be on the shows, but she stressed how important it was. She also stressed how important it was to remind some of these people who make decisions that I'm here. It might be a little bit of a drive, but I am available and I'm still doing this. And after a little while I thought about it, I was like, yes, of course, as usual, my wife was right. So to kind of make it worth my while, I reached out to a comedian, Leonardo Joni, and I just was like, hey, I'm coming down. Are there any shows that you can get me on? And she told me to reach out to the people at Don't Tell Comedy. And sure enough, they put me up on their show Friday night. All right, so here's the thing. I was only going to go down Saturday and Sunday because I work Friday nights where I'm at. I had to take work off, and initially I was just going to cancel it. But I talked to him, and I was like, okay, I'll come down a day early just to do this show. And I am so happy that I did. First of all, Don't Tell Comedy, they got a really good reputation. They're known for putting on great shows. And even though it's South by Southwest going on at the same time, even though Joe Rogan's club has shows selling out months in advance, this show was still sold out. It was a full crowd, and these are fans of comedy. So I get there, they asked me to go last, which in some cases is really good because they're kind of building it up that you're going to be one of the best. Some cases, it's not so good because people might be like, man, this show is not going well. I'm going to go to the bar. So luckily, everyone on this show was really good. And when I got up, they were ready for me, and it was great. Now, if you watch the portion of this show where I do different characters, that's my Friday edition of the show. Blaze King was my pop culture consultant, and I had this really loud floral jacket, almost like a windbreaker. I think they call it a bomber jacket. I wore that to the show, and Leonardo was telling me that it was the ugliest jacket she'd ever seen and that I should never wear it again. I told her that most of my energy comes from my mustache and that jacket, so I couldn't get rid of it. Then a dude who has way too much money to spend approached me after the show, and he was like, "I will give you $100 for that jacket." I can't turn that down. I can't turn it down. So I was like, okay. Now, why did that guy like me so much? Well, he's a roofer, so he's blue collar. So he sees me up there, and he's like, all right, this guy's cool. He's like us. But then also, I started my set off talking about the venue. It was called Art Us, and it was an art gallery. And I just kind of thought it was funny that stand-up comedy, which is probably the least respected art form that there is, was being held in a gallery that was surrounded by some of the most expensive art that there is. And I just kind of talked like, I don't get it. I don't know how you value this stuff, and just had a really good time riffing on the venue. And whenever I do it, I try to be funny but nice. I don't want to disrespect the venue, right? So that's like a fine line that you can walk. You can kind of talk shit, but you got to do it in a fun way. And so that's what I did, and it immediately won the crowd over. It also kind of lets them know that you might actually be real about what you do, because if you can make fun of a situation that you're currently in, they're like, hey, this dude, he's got it, right? So I did that, threw in a couple new lines about some stuff. I don't know that I actually did any new jokes on that show, but what I did do was I added a couple tags to some stuff just in the moment, because I was just having such a fun time. I would throw out a new line without really thinking about it, and it kind of hit. So I'm excited about that. I think I got a little bit of fun stuff out of that. So then I go from that show straight over to the comedy mothership, and I'm on cloud nine already. I find my buddy, and there's currently a jet flying overhead. So if you see that, I apologize. Once again, I just want to remind everybody, this is not a professional studio at all. This is my garden shed. It's it's just it's a shack in my backyard that is supposed to hold a lawnmower and stuff, but since my dogs destroyed my yard, I don't have to cut the grass, so I decided to film this show back here. So I get to the comedy mothership. My buddy's giving me a tour around the place, and we go up. There's two rooms. There's Fat Man and Little Boy. They're named after the atomic bombs from World War II. And we walk through Fat Man, and it's gorgeous. It holds about 240 people. Huge stage, LED lights with like runes in the lights, like some kind of like alien text or something. Joe Rogan is kind of out there, He's done some major psychedelics and has spoke to aliens, I guess. So he's like, this is what they told me to do. That room was beautiful. Then he takes me up to Little Boy, and it holds a little over 100 people, completely sold out. And the other show was completely sold out too, but when we were walking through, they hadn't sat it yet. They were getting ready for the next show. So I saw that room bare. But then we go into Little Boy, and it's completely packed. Shane Gillis is on stage, an absolute hilarious comedian, just murdering while I'm in there. And we walk up. Joe is standing to the side. Now, Joe I had a couple interactions with in Los Angeles. Nothing serious, just he's coming in to park his car. I'm the door guy working the lot. He tips you really well. I mean, what a saint when you're a poor comedian in Los Angeles. And, you don't want to bother somebody like that. If they want to talk to you, they're going to talk to you. You don't talk to them. I don't want to press myself on somebody. I want to prove myself through comedy and then have them approach me. So Joe was standing there, and I didn't say anything to him. I don't know if that's like in my mind. Of course, I'm a crazy person, so I'm just replaying everything in my mind later, and I'm like, hey, I should have just said like, hey Joe, good to see you or something. Maybe he did recognize me. And then since I didn't say anything, he was like, who's this? Why is this I don't know, like uppity asshole not acknowledging my existence, And to make it worse, the booker is there, who I do know. He got me a gift for our baby shower. To be fair, he got my wife a gift for the baby shower. He had a much longer friendship with her, but hey, whatever. I got it as well. So I see him and I'm like, oh, Adam, hey man, good to see you. Kind of hoping that he'll be like, hey, you want to go up? But he was just like, hey, good to see you too. While he's, because he's watching Shane. He's not thinking about anything else. And then I walk up and David Lucas is there. David Lucas is a regular on Kill Tony. He was also a door guy at the Comedy Store and someone that I had a pretty good relationship with, and I've been critical of some of the stuff that he did as far as crowd work in the past, but all in all, a buddy, for sure. And, I mean, during the pandemic, David Lucas and we would work out in the parking lot of the Comedy Store with Richie, who was one of the managers there at the time. He's now the general manager of the Comedy Store. And, we would just be out there, like, doing the ropes and stuff. Like, just two fat asses pretending like they're going to keep doing this after there's something else to do in the world. But anyway, we got a friendship, and apparently the show that's going on is David Lucas and Friends. So when he sees me and I'm like, David, what's up, man? He goes, hey, you want to go up? And I didn't realize it was his show. So I was like, you can get me up? And he's like, yeah, man, I got you. And then 2 comedians later, I'm on stage. And let me tell you, this just takes it to a whole other level, okay? I was just happy to be there, right? Just happy to be there. And now I'm about to go up the second week that this club is open, the second night that this room is open, and they're bringing me up on stage next. So I'm just over the moon. And I get up there, and this show, I don't know what got, like, I just had a wild hair up my ass. And during my set, I did a new joke, and it just hits. And I'm reminding myself, man, I'm really good at this. I know I talked about it before. America's Got Talent was initially a very exciting opportunity for me, but after everything happened, it turned into the most demoralizing experience. I lost all the confidence in myself. I did not feel like I was funny anymore, and I basically quit. But Adam Hartle, who passed away in December, he believed in me, as much as my wife and more than anybody else at that point. And he was doing shows in Austin. And when I moved to Texas, he was like, hey, do what you got to do, but I'm going to give you a lot of money to come down whenever I can and do my shows. And I was probably one of the highest paid people that was there because he believed in me so much. And he brought my confidence back. And it wasn't the money that did it. That was what encouraged me to go. But it was him just constantly telling me how good I was and believing in me, and that's what I needed. When I was in LA, my wife was very supportive, and a lot of the comics were very supportive, but I wasn't getting what I needed from the clubs or from the industry, and I just kind of felt like I didn't have what it took anymore. So I quit. And then I started believing in myself again. And then, that show at Don't Tell Comedy, I was joking around about how every time I come to Austin, I'm hoping I bomb. That way I can just be like, yep, I made the right choice. It was time to quit. I know that's like a terrible thing to wish for, but ultimately, you never want to be wrong in big life decisions. And I uprooted my family and moved them from Los Angeles to to the most rural part of Texas that you could live in. And so sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I wish they'd prove me right, But they didn't. That show at Don't Tell was great. And then my set at Comedy Mothership. Look, first of all, I should be very nervous. But Hassan Ahmad is there. Derek Poston is there. David Lucas is there. The booker of the club, who I've performed in front of so many times, is there. I have my best friend, who's the general manager, is there. I have no reason to be nervous. If anything, I am surrounded by people who have supported me and believe. So I went up there with all the confidence in the world, and it was great. It was amazing. Then I went downstairs to the bar, hung out with all of my friends. There were people who I was taking pictures all night and sending them to my wife, because these are our friends. These are people that we know and love. And my wife was just over the moon for me. When I told her that I got up on stage, she was just like, I can't believe it. That's so, actually, she was like, see, I take that back. I was like, I can't believe it. My wife was like, see, I told you so. And I'll be honest, I know a lot of people don't like that, but when my wife is telling me something, it's always very positive. So when she says, see, I told you so, it just reminds me that I need to listen to her, because she's right. Okay, so that night's great. Now the next night, I get it. So the next morning I get a message, and it's got a lineup on it, and I'm on the lineup, and I was like, I don't remember getting on a show tonight, but it was apparently Leonardo had reached out for me again, and they agreed to give me a spot. And this was at the Alamo Draft House, out like on the north side of Austin. I don't know what happened, but I got up there on stage, and I'll post this on my Patreon so that you can see it as well. What I like to do on Patreon is edit some clips and show like the difference in jokes, like from when I'm working on them, and they're not quite perfected, and then later when I've really got them smoothed out. But then also, just to, like, maybe something that I would never want anybody to see, but since you're paying money, all right, you deserve it. You get to see when it doesn't go so well. This one, as soon as I got up there, they just were like, nah, we don't want it. And I don't know if it got in my mind, but like the joke that I had done the night before, I just worded it differently or something, and it didn't hit, and I was like, what happened? And then I told another joke, and it didn't really hit, and at this point, I was just like, okay. Earlier I said when I make fun of a room or something, I try and do it in a fun way. I was mad. They they pissed me off. I attacked. I was just like, y'all don't deserve me. Last night I had a great set at Joe Rogan's new club. Then I come in to perform in the basement of a movie theater. This is what I'm getting. I was like, y'all don't deserve. And then they like me. Then they're like, oh, okay. And so I don't know what they were wanting, but I guess a little bit of discipline was in order. And I hated that set. I got off stage. Leonardo was like, hey, that was good, and I was like, no, that was terrible. By the way, I got 2 drink tickets for that show along with the pay, and I only used one. I finished my beer, and I was like, let's get out of here. I'm not feeling this at all. But apparently, one of the comics ran outside and told another. He was like, "Hey man, you need to come in and watch this. This dude is killing right now." And I guess they liked the fact that I was in a hole and then dug out of it. And even like a customer there, someone in the audience, like a few people were like, "Hey man, that was great." And then this one dude was like, "Dude, you brought it back. Like I don't know what happened, but wow." And I was just in my mind like, "Okay, that's a compliment, but I don't want to bring it back. I want to start it strong, and then like, and then finish strong. I don't want to get up there and feel like these people don't like me." So, So anyway, the Alamo Draft House wasn't the best experience for me, but I guess it wasn't a total loss. Then Leonardo gives me a ride to the Comedy Mothership. She knows the general manager there, and I was able to talk to him and see if she could come hang out as well. And he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we had to park a little bit away from the place, and we're just kind of discussing some stuff as we go. I said something that made her laugh, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna try this joke the next time I get a chance." And it was about my shoes. We get to Comedy Mothership. I made it a point to talk to every security guard there. I just remember working as a door guy. I know a lot of the door guys, so I didn't have to introduce myself to all of them. But I remember working at the Comedy Store, asking people for their IDs, getting the attitude, people just walking by you without, getting permission to go places first, because they don't believe that they don't belong there. And even though I'm there with the general manager and getting escorted everywhere, I know at some point I'm going to be by myself. And I know that these people are getting tested by people all the time. So I'm just like, "Hey man, my name's Mitch," and they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw you with Curtis." And I'm like, "Well, I just wanted to introduce myself to you and just check with you before I go anywhere." And they're like, "Oh yeah, you're good." So made some friends with the staff there. Thought that maybe I could get on another show. Reached out to the guy whose show it was and was like, "Hey man, you think I can get a spot?" And his response was, "Who do you think you are, Seinfeld? You're just gonna drop in?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, it happened last night." So a lot of humbling experiences Saturday night. Friday night was like a big build up. Great sets, getting asked to do Joe's room for David Lucas's show, just being like, "I'm back, baby, woo!" Then Friday night, rough set at the Alamo Draft House. The guy whose show it was being like, "What makes you think I would put you on this show?" So, now I'm back. I'm back to where I belong. But the booker was there, and they decided to do their potluck, which is, so at the Comedy Store, potluck is they have an open mic, which is 16 comedians. Everybody gets 3 minutes each. Then after that, it's friends and family of the Comedy Store. So you're either a comedian that works there, or you're a comedian that they think is worth looking at and making a paid regular. So the booker, he's like, "Hey, we decided to do potluck tomorrow. Love for you to do some time." And I was like, "I got to talk to my wife," who he knows. And she thinks he's, a great friend. I don't want to, they are great friends. I don't mean to be like, she's out of her mind. They're great friends. So I called her up 1:30 in the morning, just completely just ignorant of what time it was. Wasn't even thinking. I was just kind of hyped up, and I was like, "Hey babe, asked me if I wanted to do a spot tomorrow on their crew show. Like, is it cool?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, I mean, go ahead." And I was like, "All right, we'll talk tomorrow. I'm sorry, I just realized what time it was." And I thought about it the next day, and I was like, I don't want to do this. And so I told my buddy who I was staying with, I was like, "Hey man, I'm going home. I miss my wife, I miss my daughter. I'll come back again in a couple weeks." And I called her, and I was like, "Hey, I'm on my way." And she just said, "I thought you were staying." And I go, "Yeah, but I don't want to like be away anymore. And she's like, no, this is the first night that they're doing that show. They're asking you to do it. You need to do it. And again, she was right. So so I went there. I called my buddy up and I was like, hey man, I'm coming back. Let's go get lunch. I'm gonna do the show. And he goes to work at like 3:00. So I'm there for like 3 to 4 hours, just kind of by myself. And I just had some thoughts going through my head, and I decided to try out some new material again. And it's so funny. So this night I get there and it's another packed house. I mean, 100 and something people enjoying open micers, some of whom haven't ever done comedy. So I'm immediately like, oh, okay, here we go. I'm back. It's going to be another fun show. And I did the joke that I did the night before. So the first night at Comedy Mothership, where it did well. Then the second night at Alamo Drive, where I worded it wrong and it just got nothing. Then this night I went back and I listened to the first recording, which this is why, if you're an up and coming comedian, record everything, even if it doesn't do well, because I was able to compare the two and I was like, that's what I didn't do. So I redid that one, and it hits hard again. Then I had a joke about how when you're over 40 and you're having a baby, they like to remind you of it every visit, and they give you tests basically to be like, if you want to have an abortion, this would be the time to do it. And I had done that joke one time before, but I was really drunk because I had placed second in a competition by like 3 votes. And it was $5,000 to the winner and nothing to anybody else. And I just drank my sorrows away. And then Derek and Hassan asked me if I wanted to do their show that was in the same venue after the competition. And I was like, yeah, what else do I got to lose? Let me try this new idea that I got. And it did well. But then I hadn't done it again primarily because I was like, I don't exactly remember how I did. I did not record that one. I didn't record it, so I only had like a vague memory of what it was in my mind. So I tried to do that one again, and it actually did well. I was surprised. I had one idea of how when you fat, your butt crack shows in your pants, and it's always at the worst possible time, like when you're changing a tire on the side of the road. You're already demoralized because you're having to do that, and then you can feel your butt crack showing, but you don't want to spend any more time. So you're just like, I'm just going to have to look like an asshole, or at least an ass crack, I guess. I did not do that one because I was watching the time. And then I got to the joke that I was going to make based off of the funny conversation that I had with Leonardo. And that was about my shoes. I had recently gone to get my feet measured for some work shoes. And when I did it, they measured me at an 11. I've been wearing 10s since my senior year of high school. And I was just like, are you sure? She's like, oh yeah. Like, she pulled out that machine or that little gadget that you put your foot on, and then they move the thing up and down. They're like, yep, you're an 11. So the joke that I had was that I recently got my feet measured. Turns out I was wearing a 10 when I should have been 11, which, made a huge difference because for the last 10 years, I thought I was depressed. Turns out I just was wearing the wrong size shoe. Very funny worded that way. I worded it, I recently found out that, or I for the longest time, I thought I was depressed. Turns out I was just wearing the wrong size shoe. That was doing the punchline before the setup. And it didn't hit at all. Now, luckily, I had a few more things that I was talking about after that. And that brought it back up. Then the next joke that I did was one that's, I've been doing for probably a year and a half or something like that. But none of this stuff the booker at the Comedy Store had seen before. So this was all great because he loves it when you have new material. So, now I'm doing this stuff that hits real hard. And that was great because I started strong, had a little, not as great joke, but then hit the bam, and everyone's like laughing hard, clap, like they're just loving it. So then I have this joke about, I thought about this on the drive to the comedy club, and it is the word legend and how we use it incorrectly. We call people like Joe Rogan or Dave Chappelle legends, but that's not true because a legend has a mystery to it, like the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Bigfoot is a legendary creature because there's no proof that these things have happened. It's got an air of mystery to it. I said they're greats because we know them and we know how good they are. They are the greats. And then I said that I am the legend because I am so good, but nobody really knows it. Now, this could have gone really bad. This could have gone so bad. And I was really so first of all, I was watching my time, and so after the shoe bit didn't go as well as I wanted to, I realized I had enough time to do the bit that I know is great before moving into this other one. And oh man, thank God I was monitoring my time because I did that, and it said these people were loving me. And so when I called myself a legend, they loved it. And then when I did a couple of examples of what a legend was, the last one just blew it up. And so then the whole thing was that a legend isn't really known. And I was talking about how nobody knows me. So then at the end of all that, I just go, thank you all. And real quick, before I leave, I took the microphone, I put it down in front of a guy in the front row, and I go, what's my name? And he goes, I have no idea. And I was just like, see? Legendary. And boom. It gets a huge laugh and applause. So, I mean, a risk. People do not like narcissists. Rappers can be the greatest rapper alive. I talk about this a lot. Rappers can be the greatest rapper alive. It's almost expected. But a comedian has to have some humility. You have to be humble. And so when you talk about how amazing you are, you got to back it up. So just the thought of doing that joke was kind of like, grr. But then I did it and it worked out. It was actually a really good joke that I think really, so then I go to leave and the booker, he gives me a big hug, which usually if you had a good set at the Comedy Store, you got a fist bump. Good set. But this one, he hasn't seen me in a long time, and he just gives me a big hug, and then he says, I want you down here as much as possible. So I know I can do those Sunday shows anytime I can, but I'm just really excited because that show is going on. And then right down the street, my friend Adam, who passed away, the comedy club that he was opening is still opening up. I'm doing the opening show April 22nd. And I know that I have that venue and this venue, which are going to be two of the best venues. I mean, Joe's Club is going to be the best venue in the world, but this other club is going to be one of the best. It's going to be right up there with Joe's in Austin. So I got to be there. Now, talk to my wife about it. We have to move to Austin. I got to figure this out. I can't keep doing my podcast from a garden shed, okay? I got to get somewhere where there's professional equipment and I can move myself up, become a paid regular at Joe's Club, and actually go back to making my living as a comedian, So, started searching for work. I'm working as an aircraft mechanic right now. That's why, like right now, there's another jet flying over my head. But I'm working as an aircraft mechanic. And a friend of mine was just like, a coworker was like, hey, this place, they reach out to me all the time about jobs. Why don't you put your resume up here and then tell them where you want to work? And so last night I updated my resume, threw it on the website, and sure enough, this morning I got 2 calls. Now, they weren't for the right area. I want to work in at least San Antonio. You know, I want to be within an hour drive of Austin because I can live a half an hour from San Antonio, and then I'll be about 30, 45 minutes from Austin, from downtown. I can make that work so that even on the weeknights, I can go do a spot and then drive back as soon as it's over, get plenty of rest to go to work the next day. But now I'm working, making money until I can transition back into comedy full time, which I can do with your help. If you subscribe to the Patreon, which is where you're going to get the additional stand-up material. It's where if you're a fan from TikTok, you're going to get extra astrology and tarot card reading, stuff like that. You know, like you can do $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month. But anything that you add, it helps because it moves me into a position to do this full-time and give you more episodes, better quality episodes. And it just, you know, I'm finally living the life that I want to live. I honestly don't care about you. But this, like for me, I need your help. So I submit, and they're already calling me. And here's what I've realized. Maybe moving here wasn't the worst idea. Buying a house was. I'm locked into it. I bought a house. It's been a year and a half, so I haven't built up the equity in it that I need to. Also, I realized that it's not a fun thing to own. Fence fell down during a windstorm. I had to fix the fence. Dogs jumping the fence. I had to make it a bigger fence. The dishwasher is leaking. I gotta fix the dishwasher. Anything was going wrong in the apartment that I lived in Los Angeles. You got a good landlord, it's getting fixed that day. Hey Steve, the furnace isn't working. We're cold. The guy comes out that evening, fixes the furnace. Hey, you know, we got this thing. I'm trying to play cornhole in the front yard, and this bush is just way too big. Next day, the gardeners are out there trimming down the bush, and I'm able to throw the bean bags. There's just a lot of things that you have to do. My yard is dead. I don't know how to take care of grass, and it's driving me crazy. It was like one of the big selling points on this house. It had a beautiful yard, and now it's just like brown, and I don't know. And when I was taking care of it, the damn water bill would be $200. You know, like when I was just constantly watering it, trying to keep it alive. You know, now I can't afford to do anything else because I'm spending so much money on water. So buying a house wasn't the best idea. But we do plan to use this as a starting point. You know, the whole plan was to move here, maybe not as a permanent move. And here's what I look back on in my life. Sometimes I can be very impulsive. And that's what this move was. I didn't really plan it out well. I kind of thought that if I didn't do it, I'd lose the opportunity. We wouldn't be able to buy a house, which, again, looking back, like, why did I want to do that so bad? But the plan was the whole time, start here, because I had the in on the job, and then be able to take that job to another location, which is what it looks like is happening, right? So I'm excited about that. And when I left Seattle to move to Los Angeles full time, I had a 2-year plan. You know, I set a goal on how much money I wanted to have, and it was hard, you know, because I'm impulsive. I like to spend money, but I set it up so that I was always saving this amount of money out of every paycheck. And then once I paid off all my bills, so that when I went to Los Angeles, the only thing that I would have to take care of would be eating and rent. And so I talked to my wife and I was like, hey, I'm going to start putting feelers out for this, but I don't necessarily want to do it right now. I just want to start it and make the plan, because she started a business here, but I think we both think that her business could be, she's a pastry chef. So even though they do enjoy it here, there's a little bit more of a cultured palate down in Austin, and she's a trained pastry chef. I think that, there's a big market for Austin or San Antonio where her business could thrive even more. So it's like, let's make a plan, and she's down. Man, she's the best. I cannot stress how awesome my wife is. Like, just amazing sex stuff and always believing in me, which is like, who could ask for anything more? Big old boobies. I love it. So that's it. That's everything that happened this weekend. Just a lot of positivity. And I'm been on my meds, so I know this isn't just some manic episode where I'm thinking everything's great, and then next week I'm just gonna be depressed again. Shit's working. So I'm very level-headed and happy. And again, making a plan. Making a plan to be back to a place. Because you know what? One thing I don't want to do, I don't want to raise my daughter thinking that she can't chase her dreams. But you can make sacrifices, especially when it's for somebody that you love, which is her. I did this so that I could give her a better life. But you can also work towards those dreams. So while I thought that it might be a lost cause, now I've kind of found that spark again, and I'm ready to do this, but also show her, like, hey, believe in yourself, because that's where I messed up. I quit believing in myself, and it's time to show her that I can believe again. Anyway, let's talk about some of the news stories this week. Some interesting things have happened here in the great state of Texas. Some of these schools have had some rules made for their library so they can ban certain books, right? Like if it talks about sex or stuff like that, they just go, hey, we're not going to have this book in our school. Well, a school board who is like not cool with that banned the Bible because it fit the category of a lot of the things that these the government was trying to keep out of the schools. So they were like, okay, well, look at this book. It's out of here. And, of course, that makes a lot of people go crazy. Number one, Fox News anchors. They have lost their mind. Which, first of all, I bet a lot of them don't even care. They're just like, our viewers are going to lose their mind, so we got to lose our mind. It's all about sparking outrage. I think it's great. I have no problem with the Bible. I got no problem with religion. I have a problem with shutting down other thoughts. So when you're trying to get rid of books like To Kill a Mockingbird, this is a book that showcases racism in its worst aspect, and it is there to teach people about the history and how bad things were for black people. And there are people who don't want us to see that. They don't want their children growing up knowing that black people were oppressed, because they want people to think that there's no reason to think that they're still under oppression, right? So here's a little bit taste of your own medicine, okay? You're trying to ban books that are educational and can help people. We just gonna get rid of that book that you like so much as well. So good for them, Second big story. Whoo! Trump might be getting arrested, dog. Like, this is crazy. And listen, I know the Democrats have been trying hard for everything, but this is a good one. And it's all because he can't keep his dick in his pants. So Donald Trump had an affair with porn star Stormy Daniels, who I personally am a fan of probably 200 to 300 of her films. I think she's a fine actress, really puts her all into every scene. So after the affair that happened in 2016 rolls around, he's running for president. She's like, okay, it's time for me to to finally get mine, because she didn't that night. So she's like shopping around this story to different media publications about the affair, and they get wind of it. So his attorneys paid her $130,000 to keep quiet. Now, this isn't necessarily illegal. You got non-disclosure agreements and things like that. So when you go to somebody, this isn't necessarily a bribe, because an affair isn't illegal. They're just like, hey, rather than get your money from these news organizations, how about you get it from us and then you don't talk about it? But then she did, so they went after her for that. Now, this is the problem. They should have just left it alone. Because when he reimbursed his lawyers for this check of $100,000, it was recorded as legal fees, which is a falsified business record. Okay, first of all, he's a millionaire, claims to be a billionaire. $130,000 should be chump change. Just take it out of your personal account and be like, here, give it to her. You ain't gotta write it down as legal. You don't gotta write it down as nothing. Take it out of petty cash and pay her. But he's always, he's like, okay, that's $100,000 tax break I can get. He's like, I'm gonna claim this on my taxes. So that's a falsified business record, which is a misdemeanor. However, because he was doing it to hide that payment from the voters so that they wouldn't know, that is breaking election laws. And that is a felony. So he can get prison time for this. Now, will it happen? I don't know. He's basically a what some would consider a traitor to the United States with some of the things that he was doing with Russia and he, I just think he's done a lot. That he got impeached twice. There's just a lot that happened with him that you would think if he was gonna get arrested, it would have already happened. He incited the riot at the Capitol building. But he's like Teflon. Everything just slides off. Nothing sticks. So, will it happen? I don't know. Would it be fun to see? I mean, a president has never been arrested before. Fascinating. I think it'd be, it's going to be in the history books. But those history books will probably get banned in Texas schools, so who knows if anyone will ever actually know about it after it happens. The next news story is terrifying. There has been a fatal fungus infection skyrocketing in U.S. hospitals. Now look, if you watch the series The Last of Us or you played the game, this is a terrifying idea, because if you just see it from the outside, you think that this show or video game is about zombies, but it's not a zombie virus like you get in Walking Dead or anything like that. It's a fungal infection. They talk about how the fungus has mutated and it was like ingested through wheat or flour or something like that, and so now it's like a parasite that takes over the body, and it is gross. It's gross. You get like, you basically turn into like a fleshy mushroom or something, and you look disgusting, and then you eat people. It's the craziest thing. You might actually be a little conscious of what's going on, but this parasite is controlling you. So because of the visual that you get from that, it is terrifying. And I think that's why COVID was not taken seriously. It just, it wasn't ugly. If Ebola would have come to the States, you got people bleeding out of all their holes. And it's like, I do not want to look like that. Give me a mask. But COVID, people were coughing. And we're just, we don't care. That makes you seem weak, I guess. We're very proud of our strength or whatever. So we're like, I ain't afraid of a cough. This thing is a cold. We're just, whereas Ebola, we're a very vain country. And Ebola makes you ugly. When you're bleeding is gross. People are like, I don't want to look like that. So, that's why we would never let that get to the point of a pandemic. I wish COVID would have been a little grosser, personally. Maybe instead of coughing, you had a real bad runny nose. You just had snot coming out of your face. And then people would have been like, oh, that's gross. I need to wear a mask. Our next story is kind of sad. Demi Moore shared a video of Bruce Willis from his 68th birthday recently. And if you know, he was diagnosed with this really rough form of dementia. I believe it's the same one that Robin Williams actually committed suicide because he had been diagnosed with it and he didn't want to see it. Now, look, if you've been a fan of Bruce Willis, which I think most people are, you've been watching him for decades portraying just a total badass. And in this video, he looks rough. He looks kind of frail and a little confused. And that is not the way to go. My grandfather, when he was at the end, he was kind of feeling like that, and it's just hard to watch. And as a comedian, as someone who speaks, like, just the thought of losing that mental capacity is really sad. I'd rather, I don't know, just make it quick. I'd rather get hit by a car or a bus. Car, you might survive, get some brain damage, and then you just walking around, or whatever, So, yeah, I mean, this is. I know this is kind of a bummer, but it's not nearly as bad as the next story, which is a Colorado dentist was arrested for killing his wife by poisoning her protein shakes in order to start a new life with his mistress. Now, one thing I can tell you for sure, this is going to be an episode on Dateline. That show is all about people murdering their spouse. And look, if there's one thing I've learned from this, you have got to be willing to just have an open relationship. Your spouse needs to know, hey, if you get tired of having sex with me, you can go do it with somebody else. And also, if you want to get a divorce, you can go do that too. Just please don't murder me. I would much rather be alive and away from you than dead, thinking that we were doing okay. Now, my wife, she has let me know that we will never get divorced. And I can take a hint, if she wanted to leave me, I'd be like, yeah, let's just, for a little while, let's hide all the knives in the house. And I'm just going to drink water out of sealed bottles. Don't be offended. I just want you to get out of this, without me getting murdered. But also I know that I can't leave her. So I just remind myself every day that she's amazing, and that I'm not going to do anything to make her upset. So I hope she knows how much she means to me. I hope she made it to the 53-minute mark of this podcast. Lastly, TikTokers, it's what you've been waiting for. It is your weekly horoscope reading. Okay, it's time for Redneck Astrology. I need like a little banner or something for this, but I don't like editing stuff, which is why every now and then you see me look down because I'm checking my notes so that we can just move on. All right, let's start off with Aquarius. Okay, look, you might have been neglecting your friends lately. And possibly your family, so you need to reconnect. You might have been hesitating, but they aren't mad at you, they just miss you. And relationships are like high performance engines. They need care and maintenance. So why don't you give these relationships a little tune-up? Reach out, let people know you're thinking about them and care about them, and let's move forward with these relationships. Pisces. You've been stressed lately, but that's mainly because you've been holding yourself back from just letting go. Right now, have you ever seen an old guard dog on a chain outside somebody's double wide trailer? That dog, he has a lot of anger. As soon as you walk by it, he's pulling on that chain and he's just like, ruff, ruff, ruff. You know, he's going crazy. But if he wasn't being held back like that, he'd be a lot more chill. And that's what you got to do. Let yourself off the chain and just let go a little bit. You're going to be feeling a lot better. Aries, if you've been holding back on some projects lately, this week you about to get a fire lit up under your ass. All right? Now, before you do anything, double check with some friends. Make sure it's a good idea, right? Like if you've been thinking about organizing a protest or something because somebody might go to jail, just ask somebody about it, and if they think it's a bad idea, pull back a little bit. Taurus, here we go. You need to start a dream journal, okay? And I don't mean that you need to start writing about how you want to bag a 12-point buck or you want to purchase yourself a 1978 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. I mean, when you wake up in the morning, I want you to write down what you dreamed about, okay? Because the things that might mean the most to you could be in your subconscious. So start that dream journal, okay? Gemini, you are a giver, but lately you haven't been getting anything in return. Now, you could be a little bitch about this and start a fight over it. Or you could play it cool, sit back, and just see what happens. Now, I remember hearing how if you loan somebody $20 and they don't give it back, not to get mad about it, because that was the best $20 you ever spent. You just found out what kind of a person they were for a pretty cheap price. Of course, I did get that advice from someone who owed me $20, so I don't know exactly how reliable that is. Cancer. People in your life might be pushing your buttons a little bit. Don't let it get to you, right? Like I remember when I was little, my grandmama, she raised me. She used to say, she'd get upset with me. I'd be annoyed. She'd be like, "Ooh, you're driving me up the wall." And you know what I'd do? I'd push the gas just a little bit more to see how far up that wall I could drive her. But if she ignored me, I would realize that I was being a little brat, and I'd back off. So just let these people know that they're being brats. If you got to ignore it, or if you got to just say like, "Hey man, you kind of acting like an asshole," do what you got to do, but don't let them bother you so much. Leos. Woo, 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 woo. Big dogs in the house. All right, this is what's going on for us. Shit is going to be going down this week, okay? People are going to be asking you for help and favors, but here's the thing. You're probably already working on rebuilding that patio around your above ground pool. You need to focus on that. Put your needs ahead of other people this week. Then, once you get that patio built, you can help people with their bullshit. Virgos, you've been keeping stuff all bottled up, and you're about to explode. And look, while dynamite may be a good way to catch fish, it isn't a good way to deal with your problems. Tell your close friends what's bothering you. Being vulnerable, it don't always make you look like a little bitch. Sometimes it's helpful, okay? Libra, here's what's going on. Love is in the air. Now, usually you're a selfless lover, making sure that your boo gets theirs first, and maybe not even necessarily getting yours as well. So this week, you get yours. Ladies, you tell him, get down there and handle your business. My wife is a Libra, so I know what I'm going to be doing today when she gets home. Scorpios. This is a rough one. You probably got a coworker that you're starting to get a crush on, and you might be thinking to yourself, "Hey, this could work." Well, my advice, don't shit where you eat. Walk away. There's another person out there that you don't work with that also has some big old titties, okay? Sagittarius, it's time to clean up, all right? And I don't mean spiritually. You need to clean your damn house. It's a pigsty in there. You cannot focus if you're living in chaos. So before you do anything else, get out your broom. You're going to thank me later. And lastly, Capricorns, you're not in the best mood. And it's because you haven't been standing up for what you believe in. Put your foot down. And if someone does or says something that bothers you, let them know. Unless it's this advice that I got right now for you. So, if this bothered you, you need to, get over it and do what I said, which is when someone else tells you something that you don't like, you let them know. Don't let me know. Don't put anything in the comments about how you all pissed off at me or whatever. But do it for somebody else. All right, y'all. That is this week's episode of the Mitch Burrow Show. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Tuesday, March 21st. Keep an eye out Friday. Join the Patreon. You'll get to see the more ridiculous version of this show where I play different characters. It's kind of like a morning show that you would get, but it's just me wearing wigs and different clothes. It's a lot of fun. It's a little crazy, but I like doing it for you. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time.